Okay, good morning, everybody. Yo, welcome to another tutorial by me, your teacher. So I wanted to bring up a couple things about white balance because I'm not sure we discussed that fully, and I thought that's something that you guys should definitely know. So what white balance is you know your camera sees. How should I start this? Okay, so like you take an object that's white, like say you're holding a snowball in your hand, a white snowball, and if you move to different parts of anywhere where there's different lighting, you're always going to see that snowball is white. Whether you're outside, whether you're under indoor lights, whether you're under fluorescent lights, whether you're on a cloudy day, you'll always see that snowball is white. But your camera will not see it that way. It will always see it depending on the color of the light that it's showing. Like so for example, let me just go to Chrome here. So like, take an image like this here. We see this vase in different lighting situations. So a high pressure sodium lamp, that's kind of like your outdoor lamp, like your in your parking lot. So that really orange light. So therefore, your camera, it doesn't know any better. It sees what it sees. It just sees that vase under an orange light. So your vase looks really orange. And same thing if you shoot outdoors on a cloudy day, you get that kind of like cold kind of look to it, that cold white. It's a little bit bluish, and that's what it sees. Your eye sees it as white regardless, but your camera doesn't. So what white balance is the ability to set your camera to adjust the color temperature of the image so that it will appear to be white. And most of the time when you're shooting, you might have it set to auto, or maybe you have it set to a setting and you don't know it. These are the white balance settings, the general white balance settings you have here. They look like these icons that you see here. This is sunny, this is cloudy, this is shade, this is indoor light, fluorescent light, flashlight, etc. Most of the time you have your set to auto and you'll see AWB here. And I did that here when I was shooting at the Baker Hotel. If you look on your metadata, it'll always tell you what your white balance setting was here, and it's set to auto. And frankly, most of the time I have my camera set to auto, and that's fine. And that's why a lot of people don't learn about it, because auto works really well. So, like for example, this shot here was shot with an indoor like old light, one of those like incandescent light bulbs that have that kind of warm tone to it. And my camera did some adjustments for that. So if I click on this raw image here, then we'll see. If I open it up in Photoshop, we get the raw dialog box, and it says white balance here as shot. And we can actually literally just go back and easily change the settings. If I did shoot it in the auto setting and I want to change it to cloudy, then I can do that. And you can see what happens is when you move it to cloudy, the temperature slider, although it moves all the way towards yellow, because when your camera set the cloudy setting, it's actually adding more yellow to compensate for that kind of bluish tone that you have with on cloudy days. And if I go to tungsten, we go all the way over here, and it's more of a bluish tone because it's trying to, again, your camera's trying to compensate in the opposite direction for what is normally considered a warm light. It's adding blue to it. Now, the way it was shot, the temperature, let's see, it was at, kind of around here. And the nice thing about auto is your camera almost always does a pretty good job of setting the white balance. It will be wrong at times, especially in weird situations if you're out at night or something. And when you're shooting in RAW, you can always switch this really easily. Sometimes like I'll go with what the auto says, and I'll add a little warmth to it if I want to, or I'll just kind of move this a little bit one way or the other. I don't have to go with it, but that's where it's at. So yeah, if the auto does it well, then what's the point of even learning about it? Well, sometimes I don't know, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe sometimes you might have it set, the white balance not set to auto, but set to something else, and you don't know it. And yeah, and maybe for example, you're shooting with JPEGs too, and with JPEGs, it's going to be a little bit more challenging to change the white balance settings. I also want to make note too, in Lightroom, your white balance settings are up here where it says WB, and you can do the same thing here. You can change the white balance settings here pretty easily. So the reason why I bring it up is because I had a couple people turning in projects both for the landscape project and for this current project that the white balance settings were so off that it was distracting. And I'm going to give an example of, I think this is Jamie Lynn's photograph, and I'm sorry, Jamie Lynn, but you're not the only one who made this mistake. And it's especially prevalent with food photography, because if food photography has a weird color cast to it, then you know that there's going to be something wrong there. It's not going to appear as appealing as it should. And I think, I'm going to go back to, I downloaded the image. Hold on real quick here. There it is. Now let's see here. It doesn't tell me what the white balance is in Lightroom here. So because I downloaded it, or because it was a JPEG. But anyways, I just want you to kind of think about the color of light when you're photographing. And you can set your camera to auto white balance, but even when you're editing, it's important to think about. So take this image here, and what I want to show you guys real quick is how to adjust the color for light. So what I'm doing here is, what you can do is you can go to Image, Adjustments, and Color Balance. That will give you these sliders here, and this will give you the capability to play with the color cast to remove any color cast. Like for example, to me, my eyes, this image looks very, very yellow. It looks yellow because I would guess, you know, it was taken with an outdoor white balance setting, but taken indoors with indoor light. So the camera is adding a lot of yellow to compensate for the blue light. It thinks it's there, but it's not. Anyways, so I could just add some blue here and, you know, just kind of move the sliders to make the cast up here less so. So I'm actually want to make the photo look a little colder. And just by kind of eyeballing it, I can move things around. You can see kind of a big difference from here to here. All of a sudden the flower actually looks white, and you'll notice that in the original it looked almost, you know, it was yellow powder. It almost looked like lemon zest or something. So this is just one way to do it. Now I'm eyeballing it. I don't have to eyeball it. Another way I can do this is I can use a tool over here that most people don't really know about. If you go to the eyedropper tool here, and you go to Color Sampler Tool, and so you have to hold down the eyedropper tool and go down to the third option. It's Color Sampler Tool, and this is kind of a way I can almost measure the color balance in an image. So what I would generally do with the Color Sampler Tool is I place a marking on 3 areas of the image. I'm going to go to an area of the image that I think is going to be like a highlight. It's going to be like something that I want to look as white, you know, something I think is going to be pure white. And luckily for me, there's a lot of options here. I can go and, you know, just like a really light area of this bowl of flour. I think it's flour. I click on that. And all you see here is a crosshairs on a 1. But you'll notice that if you go to Info, it also shows you some numbers here, RGB. Now, in any digital image, all the color in your image is made from a mixing of the colors red, green, and blue. But you'll notice here that the numbers here are wildly different. There's a lot of red in the image and a lot of green, but not a lot of blue. Now, if we'll remember from our color balance slider, adding blue to an image takes away a yellow cast, so it needs to have blue added to it. So that just gives us kind of a way to look at it. I'm going to do it in 2 other ways. I'm going to look for an area of the image that's in pure shadow or supposed to be pure black. And that can be a little tricky, but I'm going to go right here where this crease is in the right by the floor. I'm going to click on that. That's going to be point number 2. We'll go over here and see point number 2. It's going to say 1, 2, 23. And now naturally, when you have pure black in a digital image, the color information in the image should read 0, 0, 0, or at least be close to 0. It could be like 222 or 333 or 343. You want these numbers generally to be around in the same ballpark. They don't have to be exactly the same, but you want them to be closely the same. So if you have a number like this, where 000 is pure black, and I'm measuring an area of the image that's supposed to be dark, then these images should be close to all 0. And this number here pointing up at 23 tells me that there's a color cast of red in the shadow areas. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place an image somewhere where I think is going to be gray, like a kind of a mid-tone area. Now this is the hardest one to measure. So I am going to, because gray is like, I don't know, it's hard to say. So I'll just go kind of right here. There's this bowl here, and there's a little bit of a shadow here. So I'm going to click on that there. I could do another one too. Like both these are gray. This is a dark gray. This is a light gray. I'll do that right there. And the light gray numbers should be some more in the middle, like 150, 100. And you can see these all have wildly different numbers. So I know that when I have different numbers here, I have color cast problems. So I'm going to go back to the image adjustments color balance. And let's see here. I'm going to go to, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change these one by one. I'm going to go to highlights. And this also helps to kind of know when to use the different tone balances, because you can change the tones in shadows, midtones, and highlights. And that's hard to like make sense of when you're just learning how to use the color balance tool, but using it in conjunction with the color sampler tool, this kind of helps. So for example, highlights, I'm gonna look at the numbers here in the number 1 area where I made the highlight mark there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the sliders so these numbers appear closer together. So I'm going to move the blue slider towards blue. And you can see when I do that, the numbers here start to come together, although we're still way off. So I'm going to move the magenta slider down as well. And you'll notice when I move the magenta slider down, it's not like green goes down, but blue continues to rise. And we can move it all the way up to 255. Now you'll notice that my image here, if I have this set to preview, that like we're not even close to where we want to be, but just keep rolling with me here. We're going to be good. And then I'm going to move, let's see here. I'm going to move the red slider to cyan, and let's see here. Actually, no, I'm going to move the green back this way. I was going the wrong direction. So, so I move it this way. Now we have the numbers here, 249, 247, and 240. And if we look at the image, this area here, is it white? Well, let's go back to where we started. I mean, yeah, it's a lot more whiter now than it was. And we can really see how much that color change made a difference in the image. Now, does the image look perfect yet? No. We still have color casts in other areas, so let's kind of roll with that. But we want these numbers to be close together. So I could stop here. I could add a little more red if I want to. Like I said before, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you want these numbers in the highlight areas to be, anywhere in the whites, all these numbers should read close to 255, anywhere between 230 to 255, the white areas, that's the numbers you should have, and they should all be around the same. So I'm going to move on to the shadow areas now. That's marking number 2 over here. So 2333. So all that tells me is I need to remove the red cast. So I'm going to move the slider down here. And, again, what difference did that make? Well, you can still see like in the image where that difference made a difference. And then I'm going to go to midtones. I'm going to start with number 3. So this is 209, 154. I'm going to get this around 200. So I'll move the blue slider this way. And then the green slider down. I'm going to actually end up at probably around 180. And move this slider down too. Nope, I'm at 190. It's hard to predict where the numbers are going to end up, but so these are all, again, close to about the same. Number 4 over here, this area here, you'll notice now this is a really shadowy area, and that is 77, 68, 44. So yeah, I don't know. That one, I'm going to keep the way it is, and just kind of ignore that one for now. So we can see again now, going from where we were to where we are now, the image is much more color correct. And the purpose of why that's so important with a cooking video is, I mean, you want the flour to look like flour, you want the bananas to look like bananas. Even the butter here, even though it was yellow in both images, since the whole image was yellow, the butter doesn't really stand out. But the yellow in the butter here really stands out now that it has an actual white background against it. Now, this is a guideline to begin and to start to get your images color corrected. Now, you may decide, well, this is what is color correct, quote unquote, but I think I want the image to still be a little warmer. And you can do that. If you want to go to your highlights and just add a little bit of warmth to it, by all means, go for it. You don't have to follow these numbers to the T. And in a lot of cases, like, you shouldn't. But, like, I'm just saying, it gives you a guide point to start with. And if you want to warm the image up a little bit, that's fine. But just do it a little bit, you know. Like adding a little bit of red back in there will, you know, maybe make it more your taste. But again, like, definitely different than this. So, you know, we hit OK and we can roll with that. Now we have an image that's color corrected. I often do this most with images that, I do this a lot with images that, when I'm scanning like old photographs that where the color is faded or whatnot. I don't know if I have any here real quick to like pull up, but, let's see, I didn't think of that. Yeah, but you can pull up old photographs and color correct very easily that way. You can, you know, just test all your old photographs and do stuff with that. So, anyways, yeah. So, I will stop there, but I just wanted to kind of show you that because it is really important. It's important with still lifes, cooking videos. It's important to make sure that you can correct an image if it's not color corrected properly the first time around. If you need any further assistance with this, if you Google white balance, you can read more about the science behind it. But yeah, just to kind of, you know, that's all I got for today. So thanks.